A $99 putter beat putters that cost 3 times as much. Not once. 2 years running, in blind testing against the biggest names in golf. A driver with a carbon crown and a sliding weight system sells for under $400, while flagship drivers from the Big Four routinely run $500 to nearly $900 for similar or less adjustability. Golfers assume price measures performance. But when testers strip away the marketing budget and just record the numbers, several overlooked clubs quietly beat gear that costs triple. These are 5 clubs proving you have been paying for a logo, not for performance. Number 5. The Sub 7659 CB Forged Irons. Sub 70 sells direct headlight to golfers, cutting out the pro shop markup that big brands build into every retail price. That single decision is why a set of tour-level forged irons from this brand costs about half of what a comparable Mizuno or Titleist set runs. The 659 CB has a soft, forged feel that better players look for, paired with a cavity back that adds enough forgiveness for a miss-hit on a cold Tuesday round. Golfers who have played both describe the feel at impact as close to indistinguishable from irons carrying a logo that costs twice as much. And the brand did not get there through a tour van full of sponsored players. It built its following almost entirely through word of mouth on golf forums, the kind of slow, unglamorous reputation that only spreads when a product actually holds up. That is worth sitting with for a second. A set of irons earned a genuine cult following purely on how it performs at impact, because there was no ad budget doing the talking for it. No 30-second commercial during a major convincing you before you ever picked one up. If you have ever grabbed a demo iron off a big box store rack and felt genuinely surprised by how solid the strike felt, that is the exact reaction Sub 70 owners describe when a stranger tries their set for the first time on the range. It is also worth remembering that the secondhand market for clubs like this moves fast. So a gently used set can end up costing even less than the direct-to-consumer price if you are patient. And because Sub 70 sells straight from its own site instead of through a retail chain, you are not paying for a store employee's commission either, another invisible cost that gets baked into the price of anything hanging on a big box store wall. But a soft forged feel from a newer, direct-to-consumer brand is one kind of hidden value. A name with a century of history behind it is a completely different kind. Number 4. The Ben Hogan Legend Irons. Ben Hogan is one of the most recognizable names in golf history, and the company that still carries his name has leaned into that legacy with an iron that looks like it walked out of the 1950s and plays like it was built this year. The Legend Iron pairs a classic blade-style profile, thin top line, minimal offset, compact head, with modern face technology that boosts ball speed well beyond what that slim look would suggest to anyone who has not hit one. Golfers who grew up admiring old persimmon woods and forged blades get a nostalgia hit just from standing over the ball in address position long before the club ever makes contact. But nostalgia alone does not keep a club in the bag past the first few rounds. The control is what does that. Testers have praised the combination of a classic look with genuine distance and shot-shaping ability, the kind of iron that lets a mid-handicap player actually work the ball flight left to right or right to left, instead of just aiming at the middle of the green and hoping. The Hogan name gets tied to history in a casual golfer's head, not to new product releases, which is exactly why this iron gets walked past on the wall at a golf retailer, sitting one rack over from a louder release backed by a much bigger marketing budget. It is not a club built for a beginner still learning to make contact. It rewards a player who already has some consistency and wants more feedback and workability out of every strike, which is a smaller audience by design, and part of why it never gets the shelf space a game improvement iron does. There is an honest way to think about this one. If you are still working on making solid contact more than half the time, a forgiving cavity back set is still a smarter first purchase. But once contact stops being the problem and shot shape becomes the goal, an iron like this gives feedback that a bigger, more forgiving head simply cannot, And it does it while looking like something out of golf's most respected era instead of a modern game improvement club with a dozen tech buzzwords stamped on the back. But nostalgia and workability only cover half the bag. The next club on this list might be the most overlooked piece of equipment any golfer owns, expensive or cheap. Number 3, the Wilson Infinite Wedge. Wilson used to be one of the biggest names in American golf, the brand that outfitted club pros across the country decades before the modern Big Four took over the shelf space. The Infinite Wedge is Wilson quietly proving it never lost the ability to build a great short game club. It just stopped getting the marketing spend to remind you of that. It sells for well under $130, and in 2025 testing, it was named the clear best value wedge on the market, holding up in full swing testing and 50-yard testing in both dry and wet conditions against wedges that cost significantly more. Think about how most golfers actually shop. A wedge decides whether you save par or make a double from just off the green, and yet most players will spend $400 on a driver they hit maybe 14 times around without blinking, then grab whatever wedge happens to be cheapest on the rack as an afterthought. The Infinite flips that math on its head. Consistent carry distance, dependable spin off the face, and a forgiving sole that does not punish a slightly fat or thin strike the way a narrow, tour-level grind will. There is a real trade-off here, and it would not be honest to skip it. The Infinite comes with fewer bounce and grind options than the premium wedges, so a very particular short game player chasing one exact sole shape for one exact turf condition might still need something more spatialized. For the other 90% of golfers standing over a 50-yard pitch with the green running away from them, that trade-off barely registers next to the money saved. Put a premium tour-forged wedge and the Infinite side by side in a blind test on a wet green, and most mid-handicap golfers could not tell you which one just saved their par, only that one of them cost roughly $300 less to find out. If you are finding this helpful, hit subscribe. I go through overlooked, underpriced golf gear like this every week. Now let's move back up to the top of the bag, because the next club might be the biggest price gap on this entire list. Number 2, the Tour Edge Exotics C725 Driver. Tour Edge has spent years building drivers for players who wanted tour-level technology without the tour-level price tag, and the C725 is the clearest proof that approach actually pays off. It retails for around $399, hundreds less than a comparable release from the Big Four, with a carbon crown, minimal branding on that crown, and a back weight that rides on a rail so a golfer can shift the center of gravity from heel to toe and shape their preferred ball flight. There is also a separate weight port behind the face, so that same weight can move off the rail entirely to reduce spin and flatten out a ballooning shot that keeps ending up short and right. Two testers who cover golf equipment for a living, people who have played nearly every driver released this year, put this one next to clubs from Callaway, TaylorMade, Titleist, and Ping, and came away saying it delivers ball speed that competes directly with those bigger names without the 9-figure ad campaign attached to the sticker price. Tour Edge has never chased the same level of tour sponsorship as the Big Four, and it has never needed to convince you through a highlight reel of a tour pro's swing. That absence of a marketing budget is exactly why a driver this capable still gets treated like a backup option instead of a legitimate first choice off the tee. It is genuinely one of the better bang for your buck purchases in the entire bag right now. The kind of club that makes a golfer question why they ever assumed the $400 price gap between this and a Big Four driver had to exist in the first place. Every club so far has been a strong case for hidden value. But the last one on this list is the club that should genuinely bother you, because it is the cheapest one here, and it beat the field on its own merits, twice, years apart. Number 1, the Tommy Armour Impact Putter. Tommy Armour is a name that carries almost a century of golf history, a brand most golfers know from an old set gathering dust in a garage more than from anything new on shelves today. That history is exactly why nobody expected what happened when this putter went up against the field. The mallet version, the Impact 3, retails for about $99, And it did not just perform well against putters priced way above it. It won mallet putter testing 2 years running, with stability and roll consistency described as matching or beating putters that cost triple its own price. The blade version in the same family, the Impact 2, went through separate, more recent testing from 10 feet and posted a result more than 5 strokes better than the next closest competitor in the entire field, in a category where the best-known names typically sell for close to $400. 5 strokes on putts that decide the vast majority of amateur rounds before a single drive is even hit. That is not a rounding error or a lucky session on a fast practice green. That is a budget putter line beating some of the most expensive names in the category twice, years apart, in tests that had no reason to favor the cheaper option and every incentive to favor the famous one. The soft, responsive face and clean alignment lines are things any golfer can feel the first time they set up over a 10-footer with one in hand. What makes this the biggest geld mine on the entire list is simple. A putter only has one job, and the data keeps saying the budget option does that job better than putters costing hundreds more, repeatedly, under conditions nobody rigged in its favor. Here is the part worth pausing on before wrapping up. None of these 5 clubs are prototypes, and none of them are some obscure find you have to hunt down through a forum post. Every single one is sitting on a real retailer's shelf or website right now, ready to ship this week. The only reason they are not already in your bag is that nobody paid to put them in front of you. A Big 4 release gets a launch event, a tour pro swinging it in slow motion on your feed, and a wall display at the front of the store. A sub-70 iron gets a thread on a golf forum where a handful of strangers argue about shaft options. That difference in visibility has nothing to do with how the club performs once it is actually in your hands on the course, and everything to do with how much money got spent making sure you heard about it in the first place. Word H remembering the next time a fitting session tries to upsell you into the newest $600 release before you have even hit a single ball off the mat. That is the pattern running through every club on this list. The Big 4 are not making bad equipment. Nobody is arguing that. They are making good equipment and then charging you for the marketing wrapped around it. The tour van, the commercial, the pro shop end cap display. Sub 70 skips the retail markup entirely. Ben Hogan trades on decades of earned trust instead of a fresh ad campaign. Wilson and Tour Edge build for the golfer who actually reads the test results instead of the one who buys off the commercial. And a $99 Tommy Armour putter keeps beating putters that cost triple its price because a logo has never once made a ball roll straighter across a green. The next time you are standing in a pro shop staring at a wall of $600 drivers, the better club for your actual game might be sitting on the discount rack 2 aisles over, carrying a name you have not thought about since your grandfather's